Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to Demo Day. This is the Superchain Demo Day, where we give projects a chance to do a live demo for their Superchain app, or for their app that is live on the Superchain. I'm your co-host Jesse. I lead the Ambassador program over at Optimism. This Superchain Demo Day is supposed to be an interactive experience, so we live stream it on Twitter, but we also live stream it to the Unlonely app. So be sure to join us on Unlonely, where there's a messaging box in Unlonely as well. And so as the presenters go through their demo, their presentation, all it's open to community questions. We want them, and we'll take them right after the demos finish up. And I'll be tracking that in the chat. And I will kick it over to Robbie to introduce himself, fellow co-host here. Welcome, Robbie.
Thanks for having me, Jesse. It's good to be here, and really excited to get into some of the Superchain launches coming up. My name's Robbie. You guys may have seen me on the Rollup. We do a podcast talking about modularity, DeFi, and all things rollups. So absolute pleasure to be here. Love to learn. Love to find out about what's coming up new and exciting in the space. And yeah, really excited to jump in.
Awesome, love it. And we'll kick it over to Maddie to introduce herself. Maybe we got some special announcements too, or something going on. What's up?
Definitely announcements, and they're definitely special. Hello, I'm Maddie. I'm the head of developer relations for OP Labs. So we try to find really fantastic builders building really fantastic stuff and help them do it more, help them do it better, help them find users, help them get new tech into place. It's a lot of fun. And Demo Day is part of that. So it's one of my favorite times of the week. I get to talk to a couple projects. We do have a few announcements. The main one is where to go for more announcements. So we have a new newsletter called the Optimism Weekly Overview. It's on Substack. It's a bit of a long URL, but if you just go to optimismweeklyoverview.substack.com, you'll find it. Or if you go to our Twitter, which if you're watching on Twitter, click our Twitter and you'll find it on there. So that's going to be coming out weekly. We have a wonderful new writer for it, and it's just going to be a great way to keep up with all the happenings across the collective and across the super chains. That includes Base, Sora, etc. Also, if you go to the Optimism Twitter, we have a couple of ways that you can either that you can get new benefits for developing on the superchain. So Llama Nodes said that they have 50% off all Optimism RPC usage, which developers need to actually build stuff. And Camp Network has a new round of competitions, looks like. So I recommend going to see. All I know is it's just developer esports is my interpretation of that. And I think the last announcement is Jesse is a maestro piano player and is actually just going to play the piano for the whole presentation today. Do I have that right?
That's a lie. It's false. And I also lied about my piano. It's not real. You caught me.
Well, this is no longer my favorite time of the week.
Maybe second favorite. I'll take that.
Third. Anyways.
All right. Without further ado, we'll hand it over to the stars of the show. API3, take it away.
What's up? What's up, everybody? I am Billy. On the streets, they know me as Billy Jitsu or Twitter. So for those that don't know what API3 is we are an Oracle solution. So we're not really consumer facing. We power the dApps that run DeFi. So real world data straight from the source. We're like the farmer's market of oracles. Okay. So what kind of services do we offer? We have 4 different services currently. We have Chain API, which allows you to bring your off-chain data and use it on-chain. Like, let's say sports like MMAs, if you wanted to have like a sports type of betting thing, you wanted to grab that data from an API and then bring it on-chain and pay out on-chain, you could. QRNG, which lets you have random numbers. There's been a lot of lotteries or, a lot of games. We know it's deterministic. So the ability to get, random numbers off chain and bring that on chain, we have that ability for you as well. What we'll be talking about today is our DAPIs, is basically price feeds, how we get price feeds and bring that data on chain. And then our latest product that will be dropping soon on Optimism is the OAV network. And that lets you, and we'll get into a little detail about that, but allows users to bid for the ability to update the price feed as well. So today we're just going to get a really, really simple function of getting your price feed to a smart contract with a little bit of Oracle extractable value chat. So the way it works is it's a price feed. We get a price feed and we bring it on chain for you to use it. Obviously, the Optimism or any EVM chain doesn't know what the value of like Ethereum or wrapped Bitcoin is. So we grab that data from multiple source feeds, and then we bring that data and aggregate it and have you use it on chain. The cool thing about it is like once a managed API, which we call decentralized APIs, are purchased, every dApp on the optimistic ecosystem can use it for free. It's literally the data's on chain. They just got to pull from it. So we power all those DeFi dApps. So if you guys want to follow my socials, you can grab the QR code right there. I'm the developer advocate. Most people have questions. They tend to DM me or they ask in the Discord. We're pretty quick about it. So, if you want to see my shenanigans on Twitter, you can go ahead and follow along. And then if you want to join the Discord community and ask more deeper questions or something interests you after the chat, you can join the Discord. So I'm just going to leave that for like a second. And then I'm going to go into actually showing something because I'm so bored of like PowerPoint presentations. Those will put you to sleep, right? So here we have a smart contract, super, super easy, like 19 lines of code with spaces that just lets me read a data feed. I've already deployed a very simple contract on Optimism, which took like 8 cents, which was super cool because of, how cheap it is. So I went ahead and did it. And so the way we want to do is we go to our marketplace. Oh, let me go back to the marketplace here. And we could see all the different type of price feeds that we want, right? So like we have commodities, cryptocurrencies, equities, forex, liquid staking tokens are really popular right now with all this eigenlayer talk and everything. So we have all these liquid staking tokens that you have the ability to do. Stable coins, they're all over the place. But for simplicity, let's go ahead and just do Ethereum. And we're just going to go down to Optimism, big red, and then we'll pop in here. And you'll see that we have a price feed ongoing on that's updated. So a little bit of the OEV talk is that we have different ways to do the deviation. Because the way oracles work, it costs money every time we do a transaction on chain, right? Because we got to bring that data and then pay a transaction fee. To do that every second and a second, like a centralized exchange, would put everybody out of business. So the way we do it is in different deviations. So like for a 1% deviation, if ETH was $1,000, it wouldn't update unless ETH was 990 or 1,010, right? Because that deviation in price. So I've already had and funded this right here. So I've deployed the contract already. And so we've set our ETH USD. And so all I have to do is like read the data feed and ta-da, we have 18 decimals. It's 3515, right? It's 18 decimals and the timestamp to let us know that, is the price feed updated within 24 hours or within deviation? So we have security on that just in case. So like if you're running a borrow lending protocol like Aave or any type of system like that, you can always check the values and have fail safes in there just in case. So that Oracle manipulation. So that's pretty much standard. So what's really cool about OEV is that you see that it's 35.15, right? And so that's the price it is on chain on Optimism right now for ETH. But if we were to go to CoinGecko, and this is where like the consumer part kind of comes in. Oh, white background. It's a different thing. So we'll see that it's 35.01, right? And let's say there was a liquidation position that was at 35.01, but I want to liquidate it, but I'm looking on chain and it's 35.15. It hasn't met that deviation. Well, what OEV allows you to do is to bid, say, hey, I'm willing to pay, so much amount of money to update that price and then keep this price feed current to the latest price so I can run this liquidation. And so we allow that bid, and what that bid goes to is actually to the dApp, right? So when you do a liquidation on a dApp, like let's say Aave, they pay like a 5%, 10% bonus fee for the liquidation to keep a nice healthy platform. So that bid that you're willing to pay to have this price updated will then go to the dApp. So then when they pay out that price feed or that penalty, they get some money back. Because we're constantly leaking value over time with dApps, then they have to figure out new ways to incentivize users to come and deposit on their app. So they have to give out tokens or some kind of reward scenario. So with OEV, we're hoping to change that and change the value of where that goes back to the dApp so they can add more incentives or do other things with it as well. Maybe lower liquidations, fund public goods, whatever they want to do, it's up to the dApp, right? But that's pretty much API3 in a nutshell. I think we're just about that 10-minute mark. So if we have any questions or anything about that, I'm more than happy to answer.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Also, Billy.
Yes.
Hello. I recognize you now from the super secret DevRel chat.
Oh,
So,
oh yeah, I'm not really a bee.
yeah, just don't tell anybody else on the call about it. We need to keep it secret.
Yeah.
But this is great. Also, I'm glad I can ask you more pointed, how does it work questions. So I guess first for a couple explain for the audience what is an oracle.
Well, so like EVM doesn't talk to any other thing other than itself, right? So like I don't know how old you are, but back in the day when you had like AT&T or Verizon, they couldn't talk to each other, right? Like they were non-existent, or the more generational Xbox and PlayStation network could not play with cross-chain, right? So nobody knows what the value of ETH is outside of EVM because it doesn't know what people are trading it on Coinbase or wherever it's at. So we gather that data, right? There's CoinGecko, CoinMarketCap, all these different sources of where that data is, but that is not available on chain. So we have special APIs and special contracts that helps bring that data on chain. So then you know what the actual value of ETH is on the actual EVM network. That way we have all these DeFi positions like, oh, okay, you know, it's 3,500. I can borrow assets or I could sell it at this price.
I am distressed now.
Yeah.
I grew up with Southwestern Bell, which is before AT&T and Verizon were a thing, but back when we had the various bells. But anyways, back to your tech.
Yeah.
Got it. And so what are some reasons that, what are some examples where somebody would want to fail safe for their DApp?
Oh, I mean, so let's say the Oracle goes down, right? Or like it hasn't updated a price fee. Let's say a stable coin, right? Like when we were having problems, like USDD is always scary, or USDC we had a few years ago, and it wasn't updating the price, or the Oracle value wasn't. And like some places actually hard coded the value to $1. You've seen how many people exploited it, right? So if a price isn't updated within 24 hours or when the change of 1% deviation, your smart contract can check and say, hey, you know, it's not following the rules, put a pause, because we don't want any more exploits in DeFi, honestly. We've had enough. It's been pretty quiet lately, so I'd rather keep it quiet. So having these kind of fail-safes of checks, like did it pass all our checks and balances beforehand? Did the timestamp update within the 24 hours? Are we changing price within a certain amount of time that we have established? Then if all those specs are good, continue on. If not, you know, put the red flags, let the tech team know, hey, something's wrong.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
The Explorer, I found the Explorer really cool because it was almost like a marketplace where someone could go and like pick out like what type of data they were looking for to include in their application. Is there any and because I mean there's several things here, but is like when we think about like the opportunities of what we could bring on chain, there's really endless possibilities. Is there an opportunity to kind of like propose new information that I think is true, like maybe my data that I want to put on chain, and an application can kind of consume that in maybe in a social fi type of scenario, or generally like any kind of what are the bounds here? What are the limits of data that we can put on chain?
So we have that information called Chain API. So our entire infrastructure is based on the air node, and it's permissionless. So you don't have to ask us permission to run your own air node. So you can literally run your own API and run your own data. So for hackathons, like we've done, you know, bought some sports data like from racing for an API, and we ran our own air node, and then whoever won the F1 racing, we grabbed that data and put it on chain. And so, you know, if someone wanted to like place a prediction market or anything, we wait for the race to happen, the API data comes in and we pull it. Maybe you want to run your own circuits or run your own like LLM kind of system, and then you want to charge for every time you use that compute power. You can put a smart contract that charges a fee that does the request to the API, it does the compute, and then brings the data back. And then they have the data and it's stored on chain. So it's literally limitless of what you can do with the Chain API. It's totally permissionless. You don't have to ask us any permission to use it. You can literally go through chainapi.com, register it with your wallet if you want to stay on, and you know, put any API data that you want on there as long as there is one. Yeah, it's pretty cool. When I found out you guys did this, I'm like, you guys do this? It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Also, the audience, the chat, they love your mental model of the AT&T and Verizon not connecting. I got the PS, I got the PlayStation and the Xbox not connecting though. I totally understood that one.
I gotta find my market. I gotta find who's my audience here.
You hit all of the generations in two mental models. Is perfect.
There we go.
I'll have you know I am after Atari. That's important. And I see a comment about Singular. Yeah. Here for Singular.
Man,
what is Singular?
Cell phone? God, my first cell phone, I think was
Singular.
pre Verizon, like AirTouch or something like that, if I remember. I don't know. I have to need to take some ginkgo, whatever that thing is for your memory.
When we start diving into interop, I'm going to go into my metaphor for, in a future demo day, I'm going to go into my metaphor for how it's like long distance telephone calls.
Yeah.
And like 2 people in the audience are going to get it, but it's going to be a good metaphor.
Yeah.
And also I have a request for an oracle, if anybody out there is down. So Jesse and Michael Silberling, and I believe also Emmanuel, who's the wizard behind the dials in the stream. All we want in life is an oracle for fantasy football stats so that we can just have people build on top of it, pull data from it.
Chain API. That's a little bit more in depth. I have like a 30-minute workshop on that recorded on the API3 YouTube. You can host it on AWS, you can host it on Google Cloud, or you can do your own thing, but we have tutorials on how to do both. And it's just a matter of like where that fantasy football API data is. And it's literally a smart contract that just does a request response. So I request the data, and you can put a fee on that if you want to. That's on the smart contract level, request for some ETH or whatever stablecoin you want, and it'll return the data. And then depending on the stats and how you do your smart contract logic, it'll distribute rewards, prizes, NFTs, however you want. If that's something that is more technical that you want to get into, more than happy to come back again and make that a reality.
Did you really say that you already have a demo for exactly the? Okay, yep,
yeah.
I'm in it. Also, if you drop a link, we'll try to blast it out.
I'll have to look for it. I won't be able to find that on time. I'm so unorganized on the video YouTube.
And also, you just guaranteed we'll have you on again. So good work.
Maddie, I got a quick question for you. How do you envision fantasy sports on chain?
I will take up future demo day. We'll have a fantasy day because I will take up all the remaining time.
It's like, think Dungeons and Dragons, but for jocks on a smart contract level, kind of thing.
Yep. Or Pokemon.
There you go.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, for the API3 team, like if we're missing an oracle that you need to make your model work, we have tons of requests. So you can always do a request like, hey, we need this random token oracle, as long as there's data behind it and it's been around for a while. So you'll notice there's not too many meme tokens on there because we don't know what the liquidity is, and sometimes they come and go. But if there's something that you're really looking for that has a little history on it, we can probably accommodate you as well. As like right now, like the liquid staking tokens are hot right now, so like that's been a lot of the requests. And then actually liquid staking token to liquid staking token, so those have been a lot of the requests as of late. So we'll see how that takes off. But yeah, if you're looking for an oracle, you don't even have to refactor your code. Like if you used your code for another oracle, we have adapters. So I'd be the guy that you talk to for an adapter, so you don't have to really refactor your code. That way you can use API3 oracles. As you can tell, it's really simple. Like literally, this is the smart contract right here, like 19 lines of code with all my spacing. So yeah, it's not too difficult.
Beautiful. I love that. All right. Billy Jiu-Jitsu, thank you so much. And excellent presentation. Very good questions. Got some good audience interaction as well in the chat. So thank you so much for presenting and coming to Superchain Demo Day.
Awesome. It was fun, guys. Let me know when we can hang again.
Billy, I got one more question for you before we let you go. I saw Chainlink post something that looked like some kind of like Illuminati, almost looking like the API3 logo. Is there anything that you can tell us about that?
I can say probably Chainlink's a fan, API3. I don't know. I don't know anything about it. Like I think I saw it once on there, but I mean, obviously they are a competitor, but like nothing but respect for Chainlink. Like they've pioneer of the space, and everybody has their approach of doing things. And what really sets us apart is the OEV and the ability to kind of like decentralize the way oracles are updated with the bidding options, and then relay that value back to the DApp on there. So if they're a fan of that, hey, I'm around if you have questions.
I wasn't sure if there was a partnership in the works that was brewing. So yeah, thank you. Thanks for unpacking that.
Oh, sure. If it is, I don't know about it. So I'm the wrong guy to ask. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Billy.
For sure, guys. Awesome.
All right. Thanks so much, Billy.
Yeah.
All right. Up next, we have Mitch from Contango, and I just removed him. Okay, there we go. Hey, how you doing, Mitch?
Hey there. All good. Can you guys hear me well?
We can hear you perfectly.
Nice. Do I look good?
You look beautiful. Beautiful.
Nice.
Crushing it.
Okay, there we go. I just had to remove the screen share. All right, Mitch, you're free to share your screen. I'll pull it up.
Sure. There you go.
While y'all are getting set up, so looking over at the Unlonely chat, and so people watching, if you jump to Unlonely, that's where we're predominantly getting questions. So feel free to head over there, start watching, and post a question if you have one. Also see a couple of folks talking about a hackathon built on Mud to be shipped on OP and Base. That sounds cool. Thank you. You've mentioned it a couple times, and we're excited to see that. We recommend posting it to the developer forum. So if you go to the Optimism GitHub repo and just Google Optimism GitHub repo, you'll find it. There's a developers repo with a forum where if you post that, you'll be able to get some technical folks diving in and helping make that a reality. Also, if you post that to our Farcaster channel, ideally on OP Stack or on Base or on all of them, like, would love to take a look at it there.
All right, beautiful. Mitch, over to you.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm Mitch from Contango, and I'm gonna give you a little tour of what we just built with the past few months. And like the previous guest, Bill, right? I like to explain things in the simplest way ever, as if I was explaining it to my mother. So I try to keep it simple. I will, of course, assume some DeFi knowledge from you guys. But let's start with it. So what you're seeing here on the screen is a trading app, right? It's a perp trading app, completely decentralized, built across 6 chains, Optimism being one of it. If you have heard about perp dexes, you probably know that they're built 99% of the cases in 2 different ways. They're either an AMM, like they have a pool, a liquidity pool, like GMX, for example, or they're built with an order book, like DYDX. And over the recent months, we've seen some new designs arising that are a mix of the 2, right? The way Contango is built has nothing to do with AMMs or order books. We thought about something. We thought there's a lot of liquidity in DeFi that's already live on money markets and spot markets. So we should probably leverage it. And indeed, that's what you're seeing on screen. You're seeing a perp trading interface that is hiding under the hood a complex looping strategy built on money markets. So we're going to explain this in a little bit more detail. What is looping?
I'm going to hop in
Sure.
there. Apologies if you're about to jump into this, but I love that you want to explain things super simply, because that's super important, and crypto does not do that. Can you tell us what's a perp?
Sure. A perp is a derivative instrument. Indeed, this is a trading interface that allows you to go long to purchase or to go short to sell a specific asset. And a perp, it's short for perpetual, is a specific type of future instrument, of derivative instrument. It's a subset category of future instruments. It's a way that is also being used in traditional finance. I'm talking about futures, to speculate, for example, on prices or hedge against prices. And as you know, in DeFi, we're trying to replicate the TradFi world and improving on it.
And so what's the difference between a perp and, say, a more traditional long and short, or is that the same thing?
Kind of the same thing. I mean, going long, going short, it's the action that you do on this specific derivative contracts. Like you can go long and short on an oil future in traditional finance, right? You could go long or short the price of tomatoes, right, in traditional finance.
And I will.
And you will. Yeah. So you have the same here, but instead of tomatoes, we have Bitcoin, we have Ethereum, and a bunch of other assets, for example, OP as well, right? So to get into a little bit more details on how this trading interface has been built, I have to explain what looping is. I think some of you might have heard the term before. but I'll try to keep it simple again. Looping refers to the action of borrowing and lending recursively on money markets. A money market is something like Aave, where you could borrow and lend, right? So this looping thing started already back in the days when MakerDAO was built. Users would start to deposit ETH, get some DAI out of it, convert those DAI into ETH, resupply it again to get more DAI out of it with more loops. So with a small quantity of ETH, they would be able to increase their total exposure to ETH. They would be able to lever up on ETH through different loops. Of course, there's like consuming, this is gas intensive, especially on mainnet, right? But this could be automated with flash loans in just one transaction. I'm not going to go into this detail, but this should be enough for you to understand that when you're longing or shorting something on Contango, you don't go through a liquidity pool or an order book. You use the liquidity that is already there in DeFi on money markets. So for example, if you want to go long ETH USDC, right? What Contango does under the hood is that it gets some USDC with a flash loan, swaps it for ETH, lend ETH, for example, on Aave, on Optimism, to borrow again some USDC against it and repay the flash loan. But you never see all of this, right? You just click long and short, and that's about it. The beauty of this design is, well, there are a couple of very interesting aspects. We are not liquid. Contango is not liquid. Doesn't need liquidity because the liquidity is already there. I think we see tons of new projects emerging and building, the next generation thing, but they're always fragmenting liquidity. And when we set out to build Contango, we were like strong DeFi believers, and we wanted to do one thing: aggregate liquidity, right? Build composable stuff, and that's what we did. We built a trading interface that leverages the liquidity of other protocols. And this liquidity is not small, right? So when you're trading on Contango, you're trading on 20 billions of liquidity, billions with a B, not the M. So, and this liquidity was accessible from day one when we launched Contango. So we didn't have to launch any trading incentive plan. You could trade right away on any pair because it was liquid from day one. And point number two, maybe you might be wondering how does the funding rate work with this perp platform? If you know how perp instruments work, you know that you have to pay or receive something to keep your position open. It's very simple. The funding rate on Contango is what is normally called the API on a money market, the net API. Why is that? Well, because when you build a position on Contango, right, there's all this borrowing and lending going on under the hood. So you will have to pay some interest on what you're borrowing, and you will earn something from what you're lending. The difference is your funding rate, is your net APY, right? Why am I telling you this? Well, because we wanted to compare this with our perp dexes. We were like, is this funding rate better, cheaper, higher? What is it? We carried out a study, and with a bunch of different universities, and the result is that you can get the cheapest funding rate in crypto through looping, through longing and shorting things on chain, on money markets. It's not just the cheapest, it's also the least volatile. And this is quite intuitive because, well, the rates are the rates of the money markets, right? There's not a specific funding fee built from a trading platform, from an order book. It's something that comes straight from the money markets. So yeah, there you have it. The things that traders love the most, right? Deep liquidity and cheap funding. And that the beauty of this design is that this was already available in DeFi. We just had to build the interface for it. I will stop right there because maybe it's a lot of info to digest. But yeah, I'll be happy to take any question from anyone.
Yeah, that was very good. So you are taking advantage of the current money markets out there, like Aave, and the rest of them in order to kind of get all of or aggregate all of this liquidity. And you don't, what you're saying is you don't actually, Contango doesn't actually, have any liquidity like in the application itself. It doesn't own that liquidity because it's taking advantage of all of the money markets that are already out there. That makes sense. One thing that I wanted to ask about is I see a leveraged staking kind of a tab there as
Yeah.
well. And I wanted to know if the leveraged staking has kind of the same mechanism as the perpetuals, the kind of flash loan looping strategy.
Yeah, indeed. So let's do a step back. When we built Contango, we integrated with different money markets, Aave being one of them. And on Optimism, we also integrated with Granary, Sonne, Exactly, and Aave, of course. So yeah, you could trade on any of these markets. And as soon as we integrate a new market, the assets that are available on those markets can be longed and shorted on Contango. So this opened up a new array of trading pairs that are not normally available on perp trading venues. For example, leverage staking products. For example, on Contango, you could go long W staked ETH, which is a pair that is not normally available on other dexes. So we figured that trading these pairs sounded a little weird. I think what DeFi users, DeFi chants were most used to was a different interface, like the ones you're seeing here with a simplified version. But as you said, you're correct. The way these positions are built is exactly the same as those on the main trade interface. So here, for example, yeah, you could go along W-stake ETH on API3 on mainnet. And by creating a position here, you would actually do the same things under the hood. Contango would perform the same actions under the hood, and the position would be visible on both interfaces. Indeed, what you see here, my active positions, WE ETH on Silo, you can also see them here on my main trading interface. And yeah, just to stress out a little bit more, the composability of this is really a neat feature in our opinion, because, for example, on Optimism, there were quite like different money markets, and we could integrate them right away. So this
Can
really
you dive
makes
a bit more into why does composability matter here? Like, why is having this be some? I guess first, can you give everyone a refresher of what we mean by composability, and then how does this apply?
Yeah, right. I guess everyone has its own definition of composability, at least the way I intend it, is this money Lego thesis where we could build stuff on top of each other's. If a protocol like Aave is becoming the pillar of lending and borrowing, well, new applications can be built on top of it. Why
And
does this matter?
go ahead.
Yeah, why does this matter? An obvious answer is what I mentioned at the beginning. Liquidity, right? That's one of the number one problem in DeFi, liquidity fragmentation. So we should stop building new stuff that fragments liquidity. Let's try to aggregate it, right? Point number two, there are, I would call them spillover effects. For example, Exactly or Sonne, they're incentivizing their markets with their own native token. By trading on Contango, you will also earn incentives from these underlying money markets. So you will see there is a benefit for the end user, because it would also accrue rewards from an underlying protocol it doesn't necessarily know about, just by trading on Contango. So yeah, spillover effects, both in terms of real money you can earn, like these incentives, but also knowledge of new protocols that you might not be aware of and you might start to know, right?
And could you walk through a practical example? Let's say I come to Contango with ETH in my wallet and I want to go long on wrap Bitcoin.
Sure. I don't know if we could try this, but I can show you ETH USDC, for example, because I know I have balance, for example, with USDC. It's pretty straightforward. You input your margin, you select your leverage, then you have to select what market you want to trade on. I'll just try API3 for now, going along 2x. My funding rate is around 7%, and I'm quite happy with it. I review what prompted here. A very cool feature that no one has in DeFi. Sorry for this little bragging moment, but it took us like quite a lot of time to develop this, is the market impact on rates. So Contango, not even Aave, not even the biggest lending protocols, show you what's your market impact on the rates. This is super useful because size matters, right? If you have a big size and you input a trade, this can have a big market impact on the rates, and the rates can flip against you. In this case, of course, my trade is super small, so it doesn't have any impact.
And what's happening behind the scenes here? Are you supplying ETH to the Aave market and borrowing some USDC or some Bitcoin against that? What's taking place on Aave?
Basically, what takes place here is that I've supplied, what was it, $20 of USDC at 2x. So we borrowed through a flash loan the remaining $20. With my margin, they were swapped for ETH. ETH was lent on Aave, and USDCs were borrowed against that ETH to repay the initial flash loan. Indeed, if you go to transaction history, you could delve into the transaction. This is all batched into one single transaction, but the summary is what I just told you. Your margin plus the amount borrowed with the flash loan is converted to ETH lent, and USDC are borrowed against it to repay the flash loan. In exchange, you receive an NFT into your wallet that represents the position, but it's just for accounting matters.
Awesome. Very cool. And I noticed there's some Stargate tokens in there. Are those just kind of like bundled into the transaction? They don't have much to do with the transaction that you executed? Or what's kind of, why are those in there?
I guess I might have to delve into this, but what we use for the spot swap, because we need to swap USDC for ETH, we use a meta aggregator, we use Mean Finance SDK. So you are guaranteed to really have the best spot price for this swap. And sometimes this might be routed through the meta aggregator. So maybe there's some shenanigans going on here.
I have a question about the APY. So if you go back to the protocol, so whenever the user is looking to make a trade here and they're trying to figure out, how much they can, or what's the least, or what's the lowest funding rate, or ideally a positive funding rate, right? And then you see those kind of different markets, and then you also see the additional maybe native tokens that each of those markets are incentivizing with. Is that included, those native tokens, or is that included in the APY calculation, or is that separate?
And this is probably a good time to mention none of this is financial advice.
None of this is financial advice. Of course, it never is. And our opinions are our own.
Correct. No, it's not included. The two things are separate, right? So here, to go long ETH USDC on exactly, you would actually make money. You're actually paid to use leverage. You're paid to long ETH USDC. You will get 0.84 per year. But on top of that, you will also get this vested ES exit token.
Very
I also
cool.
feel compelled to mention leverage is risky, or riskier than not using leverage. I think that's just the definition of what leverage is.
Correct.
Yes.
Like if this is the first time you see a trading interface, don't trade, right? Like leverage is super risky. Never use it if you don't know what you're doing. Refrain from trading if this is your first time.
But then the interplay of that gets super interesting. So like with what you're mentioning, that you have this greater return, but then also this different incentive where the something that potentially plays with the expected value of the leverage, and once all this combines together.
Yeah, these are all these nice spillover effects I mentioned. And again, we decided to simplify things. Again, not financial advice, but all this rate differential, all this APY that you see, it can also be farmed. People have been doing this the whole time in DeFi. We're just providing a different interface. This one is geared towards just stable coins farming. So for example, DAI USDC, both of them are pegged to the dollar, or stable coins pegged to the dollar, but they have different rates on in this case, what is this? Sonne on base. So you could farm this rate differential on leverage. Again, not financial advice. If you see a juicy ROE, remember this might be short-lived, might be due to a spike on the underlying markets. These are not vols with any guaranteed ROE, right? So always do your own research.
And the leverage that's taking place, a lot of times leverage means potential liquidations, but I imagine none of the liquidations take place on Contango. Those happen on the underlying lending markets.
Right. Great point. Indeed, that's also a risk we have externalized. We don't run any liquidations. All liquidations happen on the underlying money market. Indeed, your leverage, the leverage you can get on Contango, is linked to the loan-to-value ratio that you have on the underlying money markets. You can only, get as much USD as the LTV ratio of ETH allows you to do, right?
This was an awesome presentation, Mitch. Thank you for coming on. You did a really, really good job. I mean, this is a fairly complex application once you get under the hood, and we could ask many, many kind of detailed questions. But I think you did a really, really good job of kind of explaining it on a simple level for that everybody can understand. Mitch, if people want to reach out to you, where's a good spot for them to go? We can drop it in the chat.
Sure. Let me do that, if I can do that. But our Twitter would be the best place to start learning, because we often post articles and docs there.
Perfect. And we will drop that in the chat for anybody who wants to check out Contango's Twitter.
Yes.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much to our presenters for coming on Demo Day. As always, is very enjoyable. Thank you so much, Mitch. Thank you so much, Robbie, for helping us co-host. And of course, kudos to Maddie. Excellent, as always. All right, everybody. We do Demo Day each week, Thursday, 3 p.m. UTC. So be sure to join us next week. We'll be streaming on Twitter and the Unlonely app as well. All right, everybody. Until next time.
See y'all.
See ya.